Okay, so last class we talked about shifters of supply, and then at the end we drew a market that had both supply and demand on it, right? So we're going to start from there. Yeah, this is what our market looks like. Here's your supply, your positive slope curve, your demand, your price, quantity. At this point, we said was the equilibrium point. That naturally, when you don't interfere with markets, it finds an equilibrium point, and if for some reason, when price, so this is P star is the equilibrium point, and P and Q star is the equilibrium point. For some reason, if price increases or decreases, there will be slight changes, but the market will always gravitate back to the equilibrium point. And we'll see that. So let's say that price actually decreases. So this is P1. Let's say we call this P1. Now at P1, at price 1, your quantity supply has decreased because it's low price, so quantity supply has decreased. You can write QS here to make you clear understanding. And at P1, at this price, quantity demand has increased. Because it's lower price, more people want it. Now what that does is it creates a shortage. Shortage is whenever price is less than equilibrium price, P star in this case is equilibrium price, quantity demand is greater than quantity supply. Quantity demand is greater than quantity supply. What will happen, because there is a shortage, more people want the product, but the supply is low. What's going to start to happen is prices will gradually start to rise back. Prices gradually start to rise back. Prices or causes prices to rise back. When price increases, quantity supply starts to increase again, starts to increase, and quantity demand starts to decrease. And you are back at the equilibrium point. And you are back at the equilibrium point. Where quantity supply is equal to quantity demand. So we saw that price decreased, right? As a result, demand was way higher than supply. Quantity demand was way higher than quantity supply. It created a shortage. What happens after the shortage? How does the market goes back to the equilibrium? Well, once there's a shortage, the demand is so high that the price starts to increase back. What happens when the price starts to increase back? Demand starts to decrease. Quantity demand starts to decrease. And once price starts to increase back, supply starts to increase, because when price starts to increase, suppliers start to supply more. And gradually, it comes back to that equilibrium point. Does this make sense? So this is about shortage. Whenever there's a price is less than P star, there's shortage. And what happens once there's a shortage? Price starts to go back up. Okay? Make sense? Does it make sense? Any questions?
First time, whenever P.
Huh?
First time. Whenever P.
What about what?
The first times.
The first line, this,
Like the first time.
whenever price is less than the equilibrium price, there is a shortage. Like here, P1 is less than P star, the equilibrium price, we have created a shortage. What is a shortage? A shortage is when quantity demand is way greater than quantity supply. Why is quantity supply lower right now? Why is QS lower right now?
Kind of quota or something like that.
QS is lower right now because price decreased. As a result of the decrease in price, QS has decreased, it's lower. QD is way higher, and it's caused this shortage. This shortage will actually increase the price back up, and market will go back to its equilibrium point. Once the price starts to increase again, causes prices to rise back up. Once the price increases again, quantity supply starts to increase, suppliers start to supply more, quantity demand starts to decrease again. So it's decreasing this way, and it's going back to the equilibrium. And this happens until quantity supply and quantity demand are equal, which is at equilibrium. Making sense? Okay, what happens if price is actually greater than equilibrium price? So, what happens if price increases, and this is your P2, your new price. At this price, this is your quantity demand. This is the demand curve, remember. So this is your quantity demand, QD. And this is your supply curve. So this is your quantity supply. When the price is way higher than the equilibrium price, suppliers start to supply a lot. They're gonna supply too much. So we have excessive supply now. And demand is lower. It's low demand. If you see, quantity demand is up here. Before, at the equilibrium point, this was the quantity demand, which was higher. And now this is the quantity demand, which is lower. Why is QD low now? What?
This is more of the supplies.
QD is low because price is too high. So remember the law of demand says that when price is too high, quantity demand will be low. That's why QD is low. Why is QS high right now? Because of the law of supply, that if price increases, quantity supply will increase. And in this case, price is increasing, so quantity supply has increased. It's following the law of supply. Now what happens now? We have this, there's an increase in price, we have excessive supply now. So this area that we have created is excessive supply. Excessive supply, or that's called surplus. Or surplus. We have created a surplus where suppliers are supplying too much. Why? Because the price has gone up. It's an incentive to produce more. Demand is too low because it's expensive. Nobody wants to buy it now. So there is a surplus in the market. There are products in the market that people don't want. It's too expensive for them. It has created a surplus. Now what happens? We're not at the equilibrium point. How will the market gravitate back to the equilibrium? Naturally. It will do it on its own. Not with any kind of intervention. No government has to step in. Nothing has to be done. It will do it on its own. Naturally, what will happen, because people will stop buying, it's so expensive, because they stop buying and the QD is so low, the price will naturally start to drop. When the price naturally starts to go back to equilibrium point, what happens? When price starts to naturally decrease, QD will start to increase. Quantity demand starts to increase. And when price is going back down, quantity supply starts to decrease. QS starts to decrease, and we have finished the surplus. We're back at the equilibrium now. No more surplus.
So whenever it moves to the right, that's when it increases. Like on the supply curve and the main curve. Like if it moves to the right, that's an increase.
What moves to the right? That's increased. Supply,
Like
QS?
Quantity demand and quantity supply.
If QS is QS increases like that,
Okay.
going up the slope. But right now we're saying that
And then quantity demand increases go down the slope.
quantity demand increases going down the slope. Yeah, because quantity is increasing this way.
Okay.
Quantity is increasing this way, so QS increases this way, QD increases this way. But if quantity demand was to decrease, it decreases this way, like that, like that.
Okay. Yeah.
This is tricky, it's complicated. It's right to point it out. Do you guys understand where it's increasing, decreasing? It's all based on the Q, that it's increasing this way. QS increases this way, QD increases this way, QD decreases this way, QS decreases this way. Make sense? What's your name? I forgot your name.
Jaquise.
What?
Jaquise.
Jaquise, does it make sense?
Yes, it does.
You can ask me if it doesn't, I can.
I don't need to ask.
Okay, okay. Even if one of you don't understand, I promise I won't move forward. I'll help you. Okay, so what's going on here? How do you create a surplus? Whenever price is greater than the equilibrium price, this is equilibrium price. Whenever price is greater than equilibrium price, what is with these people and like putting this stuff right at the board? whenever price is greater than your equilibrium price, quantity supply becomes greater than quantity demand. So whenever price is greater than equilibrium price, QS is greater than QD, causes a surplus or excessive supply. Then what happens? Well, prices will eventually start to go down. Until quantity supply, so prices will start to go down, quantity supply will decrease, and quantity demand will increase again. And this will happen, and this will happen until quantity demand becomes equal to quantity supply again. Until they're back at the equilibrium point. What? Parenthesis equilibrium price. P star is the equilibrium price. Equilibrium is where QS and QD are equal to each other. So it's the midpoint where the crosses meet, where the crosses meet, that's where QS is equal to QD. That's equilibrium point. Usually I put up P star for that and Q star. So that's equilibrium quantity, equilibrium price. But I could